All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about something that's about to completely reshape how we use AI. It's called Agentic AI. And no, we're not just talking about another chatbot. We're going to look at how you can architect an AI from the ground up, giving it tools, a team, and even a brain to turn it into a real autonomous partner.
You know that feeling, right? You spend a solid hour feeding an AI all the context it needs for a big project. You're getting these amazing, brilliant insights. And then you refresh the page or close the window and poof, it's all gone. This quote just nails it perfectly. We're working with these incredibly powerful models that, well, have the memory of a goldfish.
So here's the big question. What if we could actually fix that? What if we could build an AI that doesn't just talk, but can actually do things? An AI that can work with other AIs as a team, and this is the most important part, an AI that actually remembers everything you've ever discussed. That's what we're going to build today.
Okay, let's get into the technicals just a little bit. The root of the problem lies with what we call large language models, or LLMs. These are the engines behind tools like ChatGPT. And look, they are amazing conversationalists because they've basically read the entire internet. But that's also their biggest weakness. They can't learn anything new, and they can't do anything outside of just generating text. They're kind of trapped inside a digital box with no doors or windows to the real world. This is where we make the leap from a simple LLM to what we call an AI agent. And what I love about this definition is that it's all about action. An agent isn't just a passive thing you ask questions to, it's an active partner. It can look at a goal you give it, design a workflow all on its own, and then pick up the right tools to actually get the job done for you.
So how do we give our agent those tools? How do we let it interact with the outside world? Well, the first step is to give it a toolkit. And this is where a really cool piece of new technology comes into play, something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP.
Honestly, this is the best analogy for it. Just think of MCP as the USB-C port for AI. Remember the bad old days when you had a different cable for your phone, your camera, your headphones? It was a mess. Then USB-C came along and created one single standard that just works with everything. That is exactly what MCP aims to do. Be one universal way for any AI agent to connect to any tool, whether that's your Google Calendar, a live stock market feed, or a private company database.
Now, here's what's super exciting, especially if you're interested in things like systems architecture. This whole field is basically the Wild West right now. The big problems are still being solved. How do you host these things? How do you handle something called multi-tenancy, which is really just a fancy way of saying, how do you make sure one service can handle lots of different users securely? How does authentication work? The rulebook is literally being written as we speak, and that means there's a huge opportunity for people to jump in and help build the future.
Okay, so our single agent now has a toolkit. That is a massive step forward. But what happens when you have a really complex problem? Sometimes one agent, even a very capable one, just isn't enough. You need a team. And this is where we get into the really fascinating world of multi-agent systems. One of the key architectural patterns here is called the orchestrator-worker pattern. The idea is simple. Instead of having one generalist AI trying to do everything, you have a manager AI, the orchestrator. It takes your big, complex request, breaks it down into smaller, manageable chunks, and then assigns those tasks out to a team of specialist worker agents. Let's walk through an example. Imagine you ask for a deep dive report on a company. The orchestrator agent gets the request, and first it plans out the attack. Then it delegates. It might create a researcher agent to go through academic papers, a news agent to scan the latest headlines, and a finance agent to pull stock data. And here's the magic. They all do their work at the same time, in parallel. It's incredibly efficient. Finally, the orchestrator takes all of their findings and synthesizes them into a single cohesive report. Now that is true workflow automation. And this isn't just theory. There are already frameworks popping up that let you build these AI teams right now. You've got tools like Crew AI, which are designed to be really easy to get started with. And then you have others like LangGraph, which give you super precise control for more complex stateful workflows. And stateful just means the system can remember what happened in previous steps. The main takeaway is the tools to build these things are out there, and they're getting easier to use every day. Okay, so our AI has tools, and it has a team. It can act, it can collaborate, but we're still stuck with that original problem, right? The brilliant amnesia. So now it's time to add the final and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle, giving our AI a permanent brain. This leads us to a really critical question, especially for anyone who cares about productivity and, actually owning their own data.
How do we give our AI a memory that doesn't just disappear? And, more importantly, a memory that we control, not some giant tech company.
So there are two main ways people are thinking about this. The first is a vector database. You can think of this like a search engine on steroids. It's great at finding things that are semantically similar, things that have the same vibe or meaning, even if they don't use the exact same words. The other approach is a knowledge graph. This is way more structured. It stores information as nodes with explicit, defined relationships. A knowledge graph doesn't just guess, it knows that Steve Jobs was the CEO of a company called Apple. It understands the connections.
And this is where it all comes together in a really brilliant way, especially for all the productivity fans out there. There's a community-built tool called the Obsidian Memory MCP server. Now, if you don't know, Obsidian is an incredibly popular note-taking app that's all about building your own personal knowledge base. This tool creates a bridge letting an AI agent use your private Obsidian vault as its long-term memory. Suddenly, the AI's fleeting thoughts become a permanent, visual part of a knowledge graph that lives right on your computer. You own it completely.
And what's so cool is how simple and elegant this whole workflow is. The AI is chatting with you and decides, hey, I should remember this. It makes a tool call to the MCP server. That server just creates a simple little text file in your local Obsidian folder. And because Obsidian is always watching that folder, that new note just instantly appears in your knowledge graph in real time. And AI's thought just became a permanent, physical, well, digital, and editable part of your brain.
So let's just zoom out for a second. We've just walked through the architecture for an AI that has tools, a team, and a brain. This is so much more than just a better chatbot. This is a totally new foundation that creates a whole new set of rules for automation. There are some really wild predictions about what this new agentic world looks like. For instance, pretty soon, the most valuable software companies might not be the ones with the slickest user interfaces, but the ones that build the best tools for AI agents to use through an API. We'll even see new pricing models where your AI agent might actually shop around on the open market to find the cheapest and fastest tool to complete a task. It's a fundamental shift in how we build and buy software.
The big takeaway here is that we're moving toward a future where basically any app on your phone or computer can become an intelligent, autonomous agent with a toolkit, a team, and a memory. So I'll leave you with this to think about. When this power is fully in your hands, what is the very first workflow in your life that you are going to automate?